Your mind is the command center of your life. It is the silent architect behind every choice you make, every word you speak, and every path you walk. Before anything materializes in the world outside of you, it first takes shape in the theater of your mind. It's where your reality is formed, your limits are defined, and your future is built. The greatest battles in life are not fought on the outside. They are fought in the quiet corridors of the mind. It's easy to think that our lives are shaped by our environment, by our circumstances, by the things that happen to us. But the truth is far deeper and more powerful than that. Your environment may influence you, but it is your mind that interprets that influence and decides how to respond. You can be surrounded by chaos and still be at peace. You can be surrounded by doubt and still walk in confidence. You can face failure and still rise because your mind decides how your story is. Look around you. Every great achievement, every invention, every movement that changed the world began in someone's mind. A single idea held tightly in a focused mind has more power than armies. The light bulb didn't exist until someone imagined it. Airplanes didn't fly until someone visualized it. Empires were built, revolutions started, and dreams brought to life because someone dared to believe in the power of their thoughts. But the opposite is also true. A mind left unguarded becomes a breeding ground for doubt, fear, and limitation. If you feed your mind negativity, it will create a negative life. If you constantly tell yourself you're not good enough, that's exactly the life you will manifest. The words you whisper to yourself matter. The thoughts you entertain, the beliefs you hold, whether true or not, shape your reality. You must understand this. Your mind does not care whether a thought is true or false, right or wrong. It simply accepts what you repeatedly tell. If you say you're a failure, your mind will begin to look for reasons to support that belief. It will filter your experiences, highlight your setbacks, and blind you to your wins, all in an effort to confirm the story you've chosen to believe. But if you tell your mind that you are capable, that you are strong, that you will overcome, then your mind will go to work building that reality too. This is why mastering your mind is not optional, it is essential. Your mind is the soil. Your thoughts are the seeds. Plant weeds, and they will grow. Plant strength, resilience, focus, and those will bloom instead. Every day you are planting something in your mind, whether consciously or unconsciously, whether with intention or by default. The question is, are you planting thoughts that build you or thoughts that break? There's a reason successful people talk about mindset more than skill set. Because skill without belief leads nowhere. You could be the most talented person in the room, but if your mind is filled with self-doubt, you will sabotage yourself every time. On the other hand, someone with half your talent but twice your belief will pass you, simply because they have decided to command their mind rather than be enslaved by it. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have all the answers. But you do need to take control of what goes on in your head. You need to stop letting your past dictate your present. You need to stop allowing other people's opinions to become your inner voice. You need to stop replaying the same old stories of failure, rejection, and pain, because every time you repeat those stories, you reinforce the chains that hold you down. If your mind is the command center, then you are the commander. Not your fear, not your failures, not your past you. But being the commander doesn't mean your mind won't try to rebel. It will. It's been conditioned for years. By trauma, by habit, by societal programming, taking control is not. You will have to challenge thoughts that have lived inside you for decades. You will have to dismantle limiting beliefs that feel like truth. You will have to face the parts of yourself you've ignored. But it's worth, because once you start controlling your mind, everything else begins to fall in place. You stop being a slave to your emotions. You stop overthinking every step. You stop doubting your worth. You begin to move with clarity, with power, with direction. You begin to make decisions from a place of vision rather than fear. You begin to live by design, not default. And that's when your life starts to change. Not because the world changes, but because your perception of the world changes. You start to see opportunity where you once saw obstacles. You start to notice the lessons in your pain. You start to believe in yourself, not because everything is easy, but because you've trained your mind to be strong even when things are hard. Your mind can be your greatest ally or your worst enemy. It can either limit you to the story of your past, or launch you into the potential of your future. The choice is yours. You must guard it, train it, challenge it, and lead it. Because if you don't, someone else will through fear, media, doubt, and distraction. In the end, your mind is the most powerful tool you will ever have. You were born with it, and it is yours to command. Not tomorrow, not when life gets easier, but today. An uncontrolled mind is like a wild horse, strong, fast, full of potential. But if left untrained, it will take you anywhere except where you need to go. It will run you in circles, lead you into danger, exhaust you, and eventually leave lost. Your thoughts are the first sparks that ignite action, behavior, and ultimately destiny. And when those sparks are not managed, they become wildfires burning through focus, peace, clarity, and purpose. Most people don't realize how much of their suffering stems not from their circumstances, but from the way their mind reacts to those circumstances. You may think you're overwhelmed because of the demands of life, but in truth, it's your thoughts about those demands, your perception, your expectations, your mental resistance, that are causing your stress. You may believe that a person or event ruined your day, but what truly affected you was the story your mind told itself about that event. That's how powerful thoughts are. They don't just interpret reality, they create it. Think about this. Have you ever woken up with no obvious problem, yet still felt irritated, low energy, or mentally scattered? That's not life doing that, it's thought. Thoughts left unchecked from the previous day, thoughts creeping in from old wounds, thoughts formed by fear of the future. Left alone, they multiply, they spiral, and before long you're moving through life reacting rather than acting. You're living on autopilot, responding to whatever thoughts hit you first. That's what an uncontrolled mind looks like. It jumps from one worry to another, clings to the past, obsesses over the future, seeks validation, fears rejection, doubts worth, compares constantly, overanalyzes endless. And when you live in that kind of mental chaos, your external life begins to mirror your inner one. You procrastinate, not because you're lazy, but because your mind is cluttered. You lash out at loved ones, not because you're cruel, but because your mind is agitated. You feel lost, not because you lack direction, but because your mind is flooded with noise. You can have all the ambition in the world, all the potential, all the dreams, but if your mind is undisciplined, opportunities will pass you by, not because you weren't capable, but because you second-guessed yourself into inaction. Relationships will fall apart, not because you didn't care, but because you couldn't control the stories playing in your head. You'll stay stuck, not because you didn't want change, but because you allowed fear to be the loudest voice in the room. Here's the hard truth. If you do not intentionally choose your thoughts, your mind will choose for you, and it often chooses the path of least resistance. It chooses comfort over growth, safety over risk, familiarity over transformation. And that default setting, over time, becomes your life. Every day your mind is exposed to hundreds, if not thousands, of stimuli. Social media, news, conversations, memories, anxieties, dreams. And every one of those inputs can spark a thought. If you're not paying attention, those thoughts will carry you into 1,000 directions, none of which are aligned with who you want to become. You'll spend hours consumed by what someone said about you, comparing yourself to strangers online, replaying mistakes, imagining worst-case scenarios, and all the while, life moves on without you. It's not just about staying positive. This isn't about repeating surface-level affirmations or forcing a smile through pain. Controlling your mind means becoming aware of what's happening inside before it spills outside. It means learning to sit with discomfort without letting it control your decision. It means recognizing when you're being pulled into mental loops and having the strength to pull yourself out. Because if you don't pull yourself out, no one else will. The world doesn't stop spinning just because your mind is spinning. Time won't wait for your thoughts to set. Opportunities won't pause until you feel mentally ready. You either take control of your mind, or you risk letting your entire life be ruled by thoughts that were never serving you in the first place. That's why so many people feel exhausted without doing anything, because they're constantly in mental motion, fighting imaginary battles, rehearsing conversations that never happened, planning for problems that may never arise. The mind consumes energy, and when it's out of control, it drains you, distracts you, and eventually defeats you. But here's what's powerful. The same mind that creates chaos also holds the key to clarity. The same thoughts that hold you back can also lift you up. It all comes down to intention. Do you take time to observe your thoughts? Do you question them, challenge them, or simply believe them? Do you let them guide you, or do you guide them? When your thoughts are left unchecked, they become your master. But when you begin to take charge, when you pause, reflect, and choose, you become the master. And that shift, though small in the moment, changes everything over time. Control doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean you'll never have a negative thought again. It means you won't let those thoughts build a home in your mind. It means you notice the fear, but don't obey it. You hear the doubt, but you don't feed it. You feel the overwhelm, but you don't surrender to it. You acknowledge what arises in your mind, but you choose what stays. The longer your mind remains out of control, the longer your life remains off course. Everything starts in the mind. Your goals, your discipline, your identity, your relationships, your success. And when your mind is scattered, none of those things can thrive. So the sooner you take command of your thoughts, the sooner your life aligns with your purpose. Discipline is the gateway to mental control. It's not about being perfect. It's not about always feeling motivated or having every answer. It's about choosing structure when your emotions scream chaos. It's about holding the line in your mind when everything in your life is trying to push you off course. Discipline isn't a punishment. It's power. It's the force that turns a scattered mind into a focused one, a weak will into a steel spine, and a life of drifting into a life of direction. Mental control doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't happen because you read a book, watched a motivational video, or had one good day. It happens through consistent discipline, day after day, especially on the days when you don't feel like showing up. Because your mind doesn't become strong when it's comfortable. It becomes strong when it's challenged and still chooses to stay the course. Discipline is doing what needs to be done even when your mind is resisting it. It's waking up early when your body says stay in bed. It's saying no to distractions when your emotions won't escape. It's sitting in silence with your thoughts instead of running from them. It's reading when your mind craves entertainment. It's training yourself to act based on your goals, not your moods. Every time you choose discipline, you're rewriting the code of your mind. You're telling yourself, I am in control. Not my fear, not my doubt, not my laziness. Me, and the more often you make that choice, the stronger your mental grip becomes. It's like lifting weights. Repetition builds strength. You don't do it once and expect change. You do it over and over until it becomes your identity. The people you admire, the ones who seem unshakable, focused, relentless, they weren't born that way. They trained for it. They built discipline brick by brick, thought by thought. While others were giving in to temptation, they were building self-respect. While others were making excuses, they were making progress. While others let emotions rule their day, they ruled their emotions. It doesn't mean they don't feel fear. It doesn't mean they don't have bad days. It means they've built a system, habits, routines, rules that keep them aligned with their purpose, even when life gets loud. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you could be. Without it, dreams stay dreams. With it, those dreams turn into goals, and goals turn into achievements. But discipline isn't flashy. It's not loud. It's not praised in the moment. No one claps for you when you meditate at 5 a.m. No one celebrates your choice to shut off Netflix and study. No one applauds your decision to walk away from toxic thoughts or toxic people. But these quiet choices stacked together shape the loudest outcomes. Discipline works in silence. Results echo later. One of the biggest lies people believe is that freedom means doing whatever you want. But real freedom, lasting, meaningful freedom, comes from discipline. When you control your mind, you control your impulses. When you control your impulses, you make better choices. And better choices lead to a better life. That's true freedom, the ability to live on your terms because you've mastered yourself. Undisciplined minds chase short-term comfort. Disciplined minds build long-term peace. The undisciplined mind says, I'll start tomorrow. The disciplined mind says, I'll start now, no matter how I feel. The undisciplined mind runs from discomfort. The disciplined mind knows that discomfort is where growth begins. The difference between success and regret is often found in that small space between impulse and action. Discipline is what decides which side you land on. You won't always feel like doing what's right. That's normal. Motivation is fleeting. It fades. It dies in the face of adversity. But discipline stands up when motivation sits down. Discipline shows up after failure. Discipline keeps moving forward when the path is unclear. Discipline becomes your anchor when your emotions try to drag you into chaos. To build that kind of discipline, you have to create structure. Not rigid rules that choke your life, but powerful systems that support your mind. Wake up at the same time. Control your environment. Cut out distractions. Write down your goals. Journal your thoughts. Meditate. Train your body. Feed your mind. These aren't just habits. They are signals you send to yourself that say, I respect my life enough to take control of it. There will be resistance. The thoughts you repeat become the foundation of your beliefs. The beliefs you carry influence every decision, and those decisions become habits. Habits become your character, and your character shapes your future. So if you want to change your life, don't start with the world around you. Start with the world within you. Ask yourself, what do I think about when I'm alone? What's my default mental loop? Do I constantly criticize myself? Do I focus on what's missing, on who wronged me, on why things haven't worked out? Or do I focus on growth, possibility, and responsibility for my future? Because what you repeatedly think about is what you will attract more of. The mind is like a magnet. It pulls more of what it's focused on. You have the ability to rewire your mind. You are not stuck with the thoughts you've always had. You can change your mental narrative. You can break the loop of negativity and build new thought patterns. But it requires effort. It requires awareness. It requires choosing your thoughts with the same care you'd choose a business partner, a relationship, or a mentor, because your thoughts are that powerful. The more you dwell on a thought, the deeper it becomes embedded. The more emotion you attach to it, the more powerful it becomes. That's why people can remember an insult from 10 years ago, but forget a compliment from yesterday, because the mind clings to what is emotional and repeated. So if you keep replaying that failure, that rejection, that moment of fear, you're reinforcing its power. But if you choose to replay strength, to visualize success, to think deliberately about the person you want to become, you are beginning to transform your identity from the inside out. The person who constantly thinks about excuses will always find one. The person who constantly thinks about growth will always find a way. You are not your thoughts, but you are shaped by them. You have the power to choose which thoughts to accept and which ones to discard. You don't have to believe everything your mind says. You don't have to entertain every fear that shows up. You can observe your thoughts, challenge them, and replace them with thoughts that move you forward. This isn't about toxic positivity. It's not about pretending that everything is okay when it's not. It's about being intentional. It's about choosing thoughts that empower rather than weaken you. It's about recognizing that your mind is a tool, and if you don't control it, it will control you. If you don't guide it towards strength, it will default to survival. If you don't teach it to believe, it will default to doubt. You don't have to transform your mind overnight. You don't need to think perfectly, but you do need to take the first step. Catch a negative thought and reframe it. Interrupt the loop of self-doubt. Begin each day with intention. Speak to yourself with the same respect you'd show someone you love. Because the most important relationship you have is the one between you and your own mind. Over time, these small changes add up. Your mind begins to shift. You start noticing opportunities you once missed. You carry yourself differently. You respond to setbacks with more strength. You start to attract different energy, different people, different outcomes. Because you have become someone different inside. What you think about most, you become. Your mind is not just a reflection of who you are. It is the birthplace of who you are becoming. Feed it wisely, guard it fiercely, shape it intentionally. Because in the end, your thoughts will write your story, and it's up to you to decide what kind of story that will be. Mastering your mind is the beginning of mastering your life. Everything you see in your external world is a reflection of what first existed in someone's mind. Every building, every innovation, every movement, every revolution started as a thought, and your life is no different. That's what mastery is. Not perfection, but power over your impulses. Once you begin to master your mind, you unlock the ability to master time. You stop wasting it. You stop living in the past. You stop fearing the future. You become grounded in the now, fully present, fully engaged. You become immune to the chaos around you because you've created order within you. That kind of control is rare and it's magnetic. People can feel it. They can sense when someone has trained their mind because that person radiates clarity, peace, purpose. And let's be clear, life doesn't get easier when you master your mind. It's still hard. But you are stronger. You are no longer tossed around by circumstances because you've built a foundation within. You can face rejection without losing your identity. You can feel failure without losing your direction. You can be misunderstood and still stay centered in your truth. That's what separates those who lead from those who follow. The ability to maintain inner alignment in a world full of distractions. The strongest minds are not those who avoid suffering, but those who transform it, who take the pain, the trauma, the doubt, and use it as fuel, who don't just survive their battles, but learn from them, grow from them, rise because of them. That is mental mastery, the ability to turn adversity into wisdom, chaos into clarity, resistance into resilience. If you truly want to elevate your life, start with the mind. Not with a new plan, not with a new trend, but with a new level of self-awareness. Begin observing your thoughts like a scientist. Study your reactions. Look for the root of your patterns. And then slowly, consistently start shifting them. Reframe, rewire, reinforce. Not once, but daily, over and over, until your mind becomes a fortress, disciplined, focused, powerful. You were not born to be ruled by chaos. You were born to rise above it, to lead your life with purpose, to create with intention, to live with strength. But none of that is possible if your mind is in chains. Free your mind and you free your future. Master your mind, and you begin the greatest journey of all, the journey to mastering your life.